Patient Powell strikes again. The Federal Reserve Chair reiterates his plan to pause this year. Our senior economics reporter, Steve Liesman, is standing by in the newsroom with all the details. Steve.
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, day one of his congressional testimony, offering a generally dovish outlook on policy, didn't close the door entirely on another rate hike this year, but emphasized the Fed is in a wait-and-see mode.
The committee has decided that with our policy rate in the range of neutral, with muted inflation pressures and with some of the downside risks that we've talked about, this is a good time to be patient and watch and wait and see how the situation evolves.
So if it sounds like he said that before, it's because he has. Powell stuck very closely to words from his January Fed meeting and the press conference when the Fed pivoted from a policy of gradual increases to a policy of patience. Powell offered an optimistic view on the U.S. economy, but the headwinds he was talking about were both foreign and domestic, saying they've clouded the outlook. And Powell suggested he didn't see any threat from the economy running out of workers. He said the economy is drawing in workers from the sidelines, lessening any inflation threat from an overheated job market. Day two of Powell's testimony is tomorrow in front of the House. That could be more contentious, with several new committee members, especially on the House side, who have their own agenda that may not be the same as the Fed's, Melissa.
You know, Steve, you emphasize patient when it comes to describing Powell, and what came to my mind initially was political. I had read this article on CNBC.com about how many times Powell went to Capitol Hill and visited lawmakers, a total of 98 times, which was 4 times as many as Yellen did in her first year in office. And I just sort of wonder if he's got the message in terms of the pivot, in terms of the pause, in terms of being patient from listening to these politicians.
Wow, how many P's can you get into a single sentence?
Oh, nice.
No,
that was pretty impressive. Well, first of all, that's great work that Ilan Mui did out of our D.C. bureau right there, looking at the agenda and the calendar of Chairman Powell. Look, this is something that actually Powell thought he needed to take care of when he first took office. He thought both Yellen and Bernanke had not done as good a job of taking care of Congress as they should have. And I think he saw the writing on the wall with this particular president, because I think he expected the president might one of these days criticize Powell. And what the Fed knows and what the Fed thinks is that they're beholden to Congress. The Congress is the one that writes the checks, creates the Federal Reserve Act, and that's what they have to take care of. That taking care of the president doesn't matter as much as if he has trouble in Congress. So that was from day one, and we'll see, Melissa, by the way, tomorrow when he sits in front of the House, how much some of that politicking may or may not have helped him.
Yeah. Steve, thank you.
Pleasure.
Steve Liesman back at headquarters. All right, so this is exactly what the markets wanted, right? Right? I mean,
yes.
Pause?
Well, let's be clear. Arguably the most important thing that's happened to markets in the last 6 months, and that is obviously ahead of the trade war. So, yes, I think the fact that the Fed also is allowing inflation to be defined differently, which allows them, when they have to respond, let's be clear, I think they still tilt to a hawkishness. I mean, we could still get a hike this year. Let's see where we go. I'm not saying it's going to happen right away, but this allows the reaction effect for them to be perfect, because they can say inflation's, yeah, we want it higher.
I think they've left the building. I think they are gone until somewhere else around the world. I mean, right? They can't just keep hiking now and just have the dollar get stronger. And I think until somebody else is out there to help, I don't think they're going to do anything. And I think they're getting, and the markets sort of like it. And, you know, the president likes it. Not that they should care about that, but I think they are gone unless something extremely dramatic happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's probably true. But, you know, if you think about it, as citizens of this country, we should want a stronger U.S. dollar. And when I say the Fed was doing the right thing in October, yeah, maybe it wasn't the right thing for the markets, but it was certainly, in my opinion, the right thing for the economy going forward. At some point, you have to take your medicine. And I think this was a Fed chair that realized that and was trying to go down that road until the market called him on it. So effectively, in my world now, the Fed can never move because the market's always going to call the Fed on it, and the Fed's going to have to back down. That, to me, is a real problem.
But is that good for the markets? Is that good for the market?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whether you agree with it or not, it's good for the market. Look at what's going on. Real estate, IYR, one of the better performing ETFs out there. Why? Because the Fed's going to be lower for longer. Now, again, it could all go sideways in the end, but for the Federal Reserve right now, it's good for the market.